Good morning and thank you for joining me again. Today we continue our look at Psalm 23 and verse 3. He restores my soul. He leads me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. And during our last devotional, we finished with that line, he restores my soul. And I just want us to think about that for a moment. Because the word restores here in English is actually in Hebrew the word to turn back or to return. And as we're going through this psalm, this beautiful psalm of King David, we're remembering that this is the shepherd's psalm. This is King David reflecting on his life experiences and the fact that his God, Adonai, the Lord, has been his shepherd. And that's what he wants to communicate through these beautiful words. So it speaks about that relationship that exists between the shepherd and the flock. And we've learned much over the last few days as we've looked at these verses about that relationship, about the responsibility of the shepherd. And one of the responsibilities of the shepherd as he moves around from pasture to pasture, from wadi to wadi where they would be watered, for example, one of his responsibilities was to bring any wandering sheep back onto the right path. I don't know if you've ever noticed this, but when the sheep are grazing, not only are they timid, but they're docile. And their heads are down and all they're really concentrating on is the grass, the pasture that they're feeding on. And they kind of move around slowly, that they're not kind of switched on to anything that's going on around them. They're only interested in what they're eating. And so it can be quite easy if the shepherd takes his eyes off the sheep, it's easy for these sheep just to wander off. Of course, as they're moving around as well, they need to be so careful as they're moving on these tracks between wadi and wadi, or between pasture and pasture. It's so easy for these sheep to get distracted. Maybe they see some shrubs on the way and they start eating, and it's easy for them to wander off. Friends, we laugh at that, but the fact is that we are exactly the same in our own lives. It's too easy for us to go off course. And one of the responsibilities of our heavenly shepherd, the good shepherd Jesus, is to bring us back, to turn us back and bring us onto the right path. And what is that path? Well, I believe he describes it here. He says, he leads me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. He leads me in the paths of righteousness. The paths of righteousness would be the righteous way of living, according to the will and the instruction of the Lord, and how easy it is for us to stray. And he would have us live that life of righteousness. Not only would he instruct us to do so, but he actually gives us the ability to walk on this path of righteousness. Remember that we are following him. He leads us, it says here, in the paths of righteousness. Why? For his name's sake. What does that mean, for his name's sake? Well, we know from the scriptures that the character of an individual is revealed often through the name. And we know that one of the names that we use to refer to the Lord is Yahweh Tzidkenu, which means the Lord, our righteousness. God is righteous. He loves righteousness. He loves that right, honest, true way of living. And he wants us to walk in that same path. And so he does it for his name's sake. That is that because he is righteous, we also need to be righteous. Righteousness describes who he is and what he is. And also, we've heard that he's the good shepherd. In John chapter 10, Jesus described himself as the good shepherd. So as the good shepherd is a righteous shepherd, it's for his name's sake, for the sake of his character, that we are brought back and led on paths of righteousness. Let me leave you with this quote. The distance between the shepherd and sheep determines the potential for danger. The greater the distance, the greater the danger. And I think that's such an important principle for our lives. You know, if we want to avoid straying off course, if we want to avoid having to have the Lord come and bring us back, and sometimes that can be painful, the lessons sometimes we need to go through, if we want to avoid those things, then we need to do everything to stay close to him. I'll leave that with you. May God bless you. Have a wonderful day.